On June 15, 2026, in a packed stadium in Atlanta, the European champions took 27 shots at one goal. 27. Spain, the second-ranked team on the planet, the team everyone had picked to win the whole World Cup, threw Pedri at it, threw Ferran Torres at it, brought Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams off the bench just to finish the job. And standing in that goal was a 40-year-old man from a country of 500,000 people. A man playing in Portugal's second division. A man who couldn't even get into his club's starting lineup a few months earlier. 90 minutes later, the scoreboard still said 0. And by the time the sun came up the next morning, that goalkeeper had gone from 56,000 Instagram followers to 5 million, and a tiny island nation most football fans couldn't find on a map had become the story of the World Cup. His name is Vozinha. And if you don't know his story yet, trust me, by the end of this video, you will never forget it. Until now. Because in 2026, Cape Verde became the third smallest nation in history to qualify for a World Cup. First appearance ever. And the man who dragged them there, the man standing between the goalposts through all of it, is one of the most unlikely heroes this sport has ever produced. His real name is Josimar Jose Avoradias. But nobody calls him that. Everybody calls him Vozinha, and here's the part that sounds made up but isn't. Vozinha means little granny in Portuguese. His father was in the military. His mother was always working, so he was raised by his grandparents, and the nickname stuck to him like a second skin. He's worn on the back of his shirt his entire career. A goalkeeper named Little Granny. And there's one more twist in the name. His father actually wanted to call him Valdano, after Jorge Valdano, the Argentine striker who won a World Cup. The authorities wouldn't allow it. Remember that detail. Argentina is going to come back into this story in the most brutal way possible. Now, here's where Vozinha's path splits off from every football fairy tale you've ever heard. Because this is not the story of a wonder kid. This is the opposite. Vozinha didn't turn professional until he was 25 years old. 25. Let me put that in perspective for you. The year Vozinha made his professional debut for a small local club called Batuk, 2007, that's the year Lamine Yamal was born. The kid who'd be firing shots at him in Atlanta 19 years later didn't exist, yet when Vozinha was still waiting for his career to start. And what a career it was. Not glamorous, not rich, just relentless. Cape Verde, then Angola, then Moldova, playing for Zimbru Chisinau, then Portugal with Gil Vicente, then Cyprus with AEL Limassol, then Slovakia with Trenčín, then back to Portugal to a second division club called Chaves, where at 40 years old he was in and out of the squad. In 19 years as a professional, across 3 continents and 6 countries, Vozinha won exactly 1 trophy, a Cypriot Cup, in 2019. 1. That's the entire haul. There were moments he thought about walking away completely. He said himself, "I thought about leaving, but I continued because of this dream." The dream was Cape Verde. Because here's the thing about Vozinha, whatever was happening at club level, whenever he pulled on that blue national team shirt, he became a different animal. He'd been the island's #1 since 2012, and when World Cup qualifying began, something extraordinary happened. 7 clean sheets in 10 matches. 7. He conceded 8 goals total in the entire campaign, and 4 of those came in a single bad night against Cameroon. Take that game out, and Cape Verde practically didn't concede at all. Game after game, this 40-year-old wall stood there and refused. And in October 2025, the islands erupted. Cape Verde had done it. First World Cup in history. 500,000 people going to the biggest sporting event on Earth. Which brings us back to Atlanta. June 15th, 2026. Cape Verde's first ever World Cup match. And the football gods, with their twisted sense of humor, handed them Spain. Understand what this fixture looked like on paper. Spain, European champions, ranked second in the world, stacked with the most talented young attackers in the sport. Cape Verde, ranked 67th, a squad built from journeymen and lower league fighters at a World Cup for the first time in their existence. Every prediction, every pundit, every betting line said the same thing. This was going to be a massacre. And for 90 minutes, Spain attacked like they believed it too. 27 shots. Wave after wave after wave. Early on, Pedri wound up from the edge of the box and hit one clean. Vozinha flew and turned it away. Ferran Torres denied. Aymeric Laporte denied. Just before halftime, Spain strung together a sequence of chances that should have ended the game, and Vozinha stopped all of it, a string of saves so absurd the commentators started running out of ways to describe them. In the second half, Spain got desperate. On came Lamine Yamal. On came Nico Williams. The two most electric wingers in world football, sent on to break a 40-year-old man. They couldn't do it. 7 saves, 0 goals. When the final whistle blew, Vozinha dropped, and his teammates buried him. The oldest player in history to appear in his nation's first World Cup match, 40 years and 12 days old, breaking a record that had been set literally the day before by Curaçao's keeper. Only Peter Shilton and Dino Zoff had ever kept a World Cup clean sheet at an older age. He was named man of the match. And then, in front of the cameras, this giant of a man broke down and sobbed. And when he explained the tears, the whole story got heavier. He wasn't crying about Spain. He was crying about his grandparents, the people who raised him, the people he's named after who died a few years ago and never got to see this. And he was crying about his mother, who wasn't in the stadium. Not because she didn't want to be there, because the family couldn't get the visa money together in time. Think about that. On the night her son became world famous, the woman who worked all those years so he could chase this ridiculous dream was watching from home, an ocean away. His coach, Bubista, put it perfectly. He called it a cry of resilience. What happened next had never really happened to a goalkeeper before. A Brazilian broadcaster, Cazette, told its massive audience to go follow this man on Instagram. Within minutes, his following exploded past 1 million. Within hours, 5 million. It kept climbing into the tens of millions. Paul Pogba posted about him. The Cape Verde goalkeeper is really something way awe. A man who spent 2 decades in football shadows woke up as one of the most famous athletes on the planet. And my favorite detail from that night? Someone asked him what he'd say to his 18-year-old self. His answer: I would tell 18-year-old Vozinha to be really proud of himself. But here's what separates a viral moment from a legend. Anyone can have one great night. The question was whether Cape Verde could survive the rest of the group. And this is where the story stops being about one match and becomes something bigger. Next up, Uruguay, in Miami, a city with a huge Cape Verdean American community, which meant that for the first time in this tournament, the islands had a home crowd. And this time the team in front of Vozinha showed they could do more than defend. Cape Verde traded punches with a 2-time world champion and came away with a 2-2 draw. 2 goals scored against Uruguay. A team that was supposed to be cannon fodder had now taken points off Spain and Uruguay back-to-back. Then came the final group game against Saudi Arabia, with a knockout place on the line. The pressure was suffocating. One mistake, one soft goal, and the fairy tale dies in the group stage like so many underdog stories before it. And Vozinha, at 40 years old, playing the biggest match of his life for the 3rd time in 11 days, did the thing he'd been doing all along. Nothing got past him. Another clean sheet. 0-0, and the point was enough. Cape Verde finished second in the group, behind Spain, unbeaten. Read that again. Cape Verde went through the group stage of their first ever World Cup without losing a single match. And their keeper became just the 3rd goalkeeper in World Cup history to record multiple clean sheets after turning 40. The islands went insane. The diaspora went insane. And the bracket delivered the ending only football could write. Cape Verde versus Argentina. The reigning world champions. Lionel Messi. In Miami on July 3rd. Remember the name Vozinha's father wanted to give him? Valdano, after an Argentine World Cup winner. 19 years into his career, 40 years into his life, the boy who was almost named after Argentine royalty now had to stand in front of Argentine royalty and say no. The president of Cape Verde publicly predicted a 1-0 win. An entire nation allowed itself to believe. And what happened in that stadium was one of the great knockout matches of this World Cup. Messi scored early his 20th career World Cup goal, because of course it was. And that was supposed to be the script. Champions score, minnows fold. Except nobody told Cape Verde. Sidney Lopez Cabral equalized, and suddenly the stadium packed with Cape Verdean flags came apart. At the other end, Vozinha was having the night of his life. 10 saves. 10. 5 of them against Messi himself. 40 years old, diving at the feet of the greatest player who ever lived, over and over, sprinting off his line to snuff out through balls. And every single time Argentina thought they'd broken through, that same wall rose up again. Regulation ended 1-1. Extra time. Lisandro Martinez put Argentina ahead in the 103rd minute, and Cape Verde equalized again through Duarte. Twice they went behind against the world champions. Twice they got up. And then, in the 111th minute, football showed its cruelest face. Christian Romero rose for a header. Vozinha had it covered, but the ball clipped Dani Borges on its way through and wrong-footed everyone. An own goal. Not a moment of Argentine brilliance. Not a mistake by the keeper. A deflection. That's how it ended 3-2. Vozinha was never once beaten cleanly from open play by anyone not named Messi, and even Messi needed 6 tries. The dream didn't get outclassed. It got outlucked. And here's the thing, when that final whistle blew, something strange happened. The Cape Verde players fell to the grass in tears, and the whole stadium, Argentina fans included, stood and applauded them. Because everyone watching understood what they'd just seen. A nation of 500,000 people had gone toe-to-toe with the champions of the world and lost by a deflected own goal in extra time. That's not a defeat. That's an arrival announcement. So what does all of this actually mean? Because this was never just about saves. For Cape Verde, it means 500,000 people now know their country belongs on that stage, and every kid on those 10 islands grew up this month watching proof that the ocean around you doesn't decide how big your dreams get to be. For African football, it means one more crack in the old assumption about who these tournaments belong to. And for the rest of us, it's a reminder of why we watch this sport at all. The Giants are impressive, but the Giants are supposed to win. Nobody makes a documentary about the favorite covering the spread. We watch for the nights when a second division backup goalkeeper stares down Spain and Argentina in the same month and makes the whole world learn his grandmother's nickname. Vozinha spent 19 years in football's basement. 6 countries, 3 continents, 1 trophy. He turned pro at an age when most players are entering their prime, and he peaked at an age when almost all of them are retired. Every reason to quit showed up year after year, and he just refused the same way he refused Pedri, refused Yamal, refused Messi. And in one impossible summer, he didn't just protect a goal. He protected an entire country's belief that it deserved to be seen. So now I want to hear from you. Is Vozinha the best underdog story of this World Cup, or has another team stolen your heart this summer? And be real with me. After what you just heard, do you believe Cape Verde can come back in 2030 and go even further? Drop in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of story that deserves to be argued about. Football will always belong, on paper, to the Giants. But every once in a while, a 40-year-old man from a tiny island stands in front of his goal and reminds us the paper means nothing. Vozinha never got to be Valdano. He became something better. He became the reason the world knows Cape Verde. And that's why we love this game.